Howdy everybody, and welcome back to our Legacy of the Wizard aRPG tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about the camera, so let's get cracking. To get started on this, we're going to need to do a couple of things here. So first things first, come back to our display manager object, and we're going to want to change the code a little bit, as I've already done here. So just come back into here. If you take a look at it, just set if room is equal to rm_overworld. There we go. That's all we really need to do, because we don't want the camera creating in any of the other rooms, only on the overworld and later on in the dungeon as well. But we don't want it being created on the title screen or any place else. In fact, you could even do it the other way around. Just say if room is equal to, if room does not equal room init, then create the camera, something like that. So we're also going to need to make a new object player. Hey everybody, we're almost there to the part where you can actually start playing the game. So we're going to need that, because we're going to need to be able to have it follow the camera, follow it around. And of course, come back to our camera object that we made earlier that didn't have anything actually in it. So let's see real quick here. We're going to want to go to the overworld and put our player in there. And actually back to the player, give them a sprite so we can actually see them real quick. There we go. And we're going to need to add a create event. It's going to be mostly variables that we're going to be using. It's equal to view_camera 0. Follow underscore is equal to object underscore player. View underscore width underscore is equal to camera underscore get underscore view underscore width. Cam view underscore height is equal to camera underscore get underscore view underscore height of cam. And view underscore width underscore half is equal to view underscore width underscore times 0.5, etc. Just make this a little faster here. There we go. And also get the views current X and the views current Y. Views current Y. I wonder if that made any problems. I don't even know if I actually used that or anything, but who knows. X2 is equal to room underscore width minus view underscore width underscore half underscore. And that will cause us to jump to, so we have the room's width is say 100 pixels wide, and the view is 50 pixels. So that would take out 25. So that would put the X at 75, and that would set our camera right in the middle of the area that we want to see. So if instance underscore exists follow, and it pretty much always should, then X is equal to follow underscore dot X, X is equal to clamp X, view underscore width underscore half underscore room underscore width minus view underscore width underscore half. Fancy math so that the camera doesn't go outside of the room. And Y is equal to 8. Then else, if it doesn't exist, which like I said it should always be there, X is equal to 0 and Y is equal to 8. Last but not least, we've moved around the camera object, but what we want to do is set the actual camera's position. There we go. And that should work good. So you know how I have these 8s and whatnot. Like I was talking last time, I messed up the grid to some extent because I didn't know exactly where to put everything properly. So these offsets are for making sure that everything actually looks right. And they're really annoying to me, and hopefully they won't show up in the next tutorial because I'll have gotten it all right then. So next step, literally, is the end step. Because we want to move our character around in the step event. But after we've moved the character around, then we need to update the camera's position so that it follows where the player just moved to. Otherwise, if you like put in the begin step, or even if you put in the step event and you had the camera created before the player or something, then you would end up with your camera always being a step behind where the player actually is, and we don't want that to happen. So exit. Exit will cause this to just stop doing anything in here. So if the follow object doesn't exist, don't do any of this because we don't need to be doing it. View underscore x underscore is equal to camera. There we go. We're going to keep these constantly updated every frame. We want to make sure we know where the camera is at all times. And again, x2 should be equal to our follow.x plus sprite underscore get underscore width follow underscore dot sprite underscore index times 0.5. This sets it to the middle of our sprite. So under many conditions, under normal conditions, we would have the camera would be ending up right there on the top left corner of our character's exposition. But in this case, I set it to the center of our exposition by setting the offset for how wide the sprite is, which works when your sprites are all the same width. But if you have sprites of varying width and whatnot, then you would have issues. So, because your camera would end up jumping around whenever you swap to a sprite with a different width. You say x is equal to x2. X is equal to clamp x view underscore width underscore half minus 23 room underscore width minus view underscore width underscore half plus 23, and that again clamps us to the room. Bar underscore offset is equal to 0. As for where the 23 comes from, well, that was just me experimenting with it, and eventually I found that 23 was a magic number that kept us inside of the room. I didn't find out where the actual need for the number 23 came from, unfortunately. If point underscore in underscore rectangle x y view underscore x underscore 0 view underscore x underscore plus 104 room underscore height. So if point xy, so if our xy position is inside of the square described by the views x position, y position 0, so the top of the screen, views x position plus 104 and the room's height, then we're going to do stuff. So this is saying, see, this is like how much you can see of the room. So if you're inside this little square or you're inside this little square, do something. But if you're inside this square here that I haven't described any code for, then don't do anything. This sets it so that the camera tells or follows your character properly. So we said underscore offset is equal to view underscore x underscore plus 104 minus x plus 1. Actually, the 23 comes from making these offsets here, I believe. So somewhere in that code, if I could figure out where it was. And we're going to do the same thing again, except again for the other side of the screen. So we have to go to the views x plus the views width minus 104. So our x position plus the width of the view, then minus 104 from that. In that case, then we do our offset is there. And last but not least, if underscore offset it does not equal 0, then camera underscore set underscore view underscore position, camera underscore view underscore x underscore minus underscore offset 8. There we go. So this figures out how far into this X rectangle we've described our camera has moved into. So maybe we've moved 1 pixel into this area, so then if it is not equal to 0, then move our camera according to how much that X offset has been moved, so that we're always following our character. And last but not least, at room start, and you remember how I was talking about having the offset of the tiles being wrong? Well, this is the fix for that. So this will get all the tiles in the proper position in the room. So fix the tile offset because I drew the room before I knew exactly what the grid size needed to be. I was thinking 16 by 16, turned out it was 4 by 4. So everything was off by 4, which is really annoying to me. So anyways, this should be everything we need to be able to actually see things in our room. So let's go check it out. Everything should be the same over here. Again, we can move around, grab some potions or whatever, and exit the room. As you can see, our character is on screen and everything looks nice, doesn't it? Alright, great. So everything is set up so that we can actually start moving our character around and playing the game. Great! So I hope you all enjoyed this, and good luck with your code, because next time we're going to get into the gnarly stuff with moving your character around the screen.